Welcome to Under the Fringe. We are your hosts, Andy Yablonsky and Julie Babin, two interior designers with almost 50 years of combined experience. And while we love design, our passion has really become helping the next generation of designers struggle less, earn more, and create more freedom in their lives. We offer a whole host of support options to help you create the structures you need to really thrive and grow. More to come on that at the end of the show.
Well, we are dovetailing from our last episode. We really dug into being a solopreneur and distinguishing, really creating a path to thriving versus a path of struggle. And we sort of were nicknaming the struggle path, Are You a Lone Wolf? And we were breaking that down. So now we want to uplift and build on that concept. And what are the options and how do you create a thriving practice, even if you're a solopreneur or you have a small team, depending on the size of your business. But generally, the designers, ourselves included, have smaller teams. And so we really wanted to format this talk about creating joy and efficiency in what you do personally in your company, and also the team members that can support you, and distinguishing that out of what we were talking about last time.
Yeah. So last episode was really like, lone wolf is the designer who is trying to handle everything on their own. And this is a common practice as you're just starting out, when you are just getting your business going. It completely makes sense for you to do most, if not all of the tasks on your own if you're only handling a couple of clients. But we were just chatting before this kind of about this episode and where it makes the most sense to transition from being that, like, really the person that wears every single hat in the business to reaching out for some help. And, I think I've been very candid and will continue to be about my own journey in this process. And that is, I definitely have a little bit of a lone wolf mentality. I'm a very capable woman, but as Julie was saying earlier, actually, why don't you just go ahead and say it? Like, if I can do my own bookkeeping, but it's late.
And I think one of the main things that we really have found to be incredibly efficient at, like, when do you decide? Because it's easy to say, oh, this one invoice is only going to take a very small period of time. If you actually sit down and do it, it's under an hour, but maybe I wait for many months before I do it. So now it's late. Are you in joy or are you in resistance? I think if you ask those questions and focus on your energy, are you uplifted? In which case, a lot of times you'll do things, get things done faster, greater ease, enjoyment, of course, because it's nice. And then you'll notice when you're in resistance, that's also an energetic thing. So it's sort of like really noticing your energy in all these different places, because when it's like, oh, I can do that invoice, and you can hear my energy going down already. You can hear it in your voice sometimes. And then you'll notice, oh gosh, she hasn't done it yet though.
Right.
There's probably some resistance there, because if the task takes you an hour, but you wait a couple of weeks to do it, then it didn't really take you an hour. It took 6 weeks.
Right.
And really that's just resistance. And we want you guys to, never beat yourself up about that. The joy of working and being a creative person is to focus on the areas that you enjoy the most, and also that you are gifted at the most, and and trained, of course, as well. Don't feel bad that you don't enjoy doing something. Be honest. And then that's what we're here to help unlock.
Yes.
I think it's easy to stay in shame about stuff like, oh, well, I should just, and we use the invoice example, but it could be anything, spreadsheets, all this stuff, that data entry, that designers are more creatively minded. So maybe they don't like those type of tasks. Some people do. Don't feel bad. Notice your energy. And so that's why we're calling is, are you in joy or are you in resistance?
Yes. I love that so much. And I also think, a lot of us could call resistance procrastination or even vice versa.
Yep.
But I think that in either case, whichever you want to call it, but I think resistance is actually the better term because procrastination implies that you're going to get to it at some point, right? And resistance, I think, is a bit more honest in that you're actively resisting doing something and it's because you don't want to. You don't like it.
Yeah.
It's not right. It's not part of your zone of genius. You know it's going to take you 3 times as long as it would take somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
So you just put it off and you put it off and you put it off. And ultimately, that is not a profitable way of running your business because whatever is not getting done is also gatekeeping you from taking on more work. And so finding those resistance spots and identifying them and with clarity, like recognizing just because you could do something doesn't mean that you should do something. And then I think the other piece of this, I'm like, I have done this to myself many times. I think I talked about this earlier, like in the last episode, but punishing myself for like, I wouldn't work on a painting because I knew that I had invoices coming in that I needed or that I needed to get out so that money could come in because painting is more joyful to me than working on the invoices. And in reality, I just had someone do the invoices for me and been painting the whole time. And for me, if I'm being really honest, is that neither of those things would get done because I wouldn't do the invoices and then I would say, well, you can't paint until you do the invoices. So then I wouldn't get any painting done. But what actually was I doing in between those two things? I don't even know. I was probably cleaning my house.
Consider that that's a double loss for that business.
It is. It is.
Right? Because then the artwork didn't get made and the paperwork didn't go out.
Yes.
And again, and not to ever, I think a big point that I want to make is like, do not ever beat yourself up or feel bad about that because I think that, and I'm talking to all of us, myself included, there's a danger of staying where you're beating yourself up in that place for a very long time.
Yeah. And that's the shame of it all.
People get in the apologizing. I should be able to do this, but I'm just not. And you hear designers talking about how they know they need an assistant or some people on their team, whatever the position is.
Yep.
And you can tell they're not taking action on it because they're shaming themselves.
Yes.
Over, well, but I'll get these invoices done and I'll get these spreadsheets done and then I'll hire for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And I think, in a similar way, like most of us don't have any issue hiring a housekeeper to take care of the cleaning of our home, right? And part of that is, that doesn't feel like a strong way to spend my time when I know I could be getting X, Y, and Z done in my business or even in my, like, I could take a nap, right? Like I could care for myself in a way that I wouldn't be able to if I had to clean my own house. And because there are people out there that need a job, they enjoy cleaning houses and they make my house look much better than I ever could. Like it's a win-win, right? And so in a similar fashion, like this is a house cleaning agenda item in your own business. So it's really a self-care, a housekeeping, like you want to keep the house tidy and organized so that you can get more done, hire somebody to do it. So I think the idea, like I remember, I think it was Marie Forleo who was talking about like outsourcing. And she's like, if you don't have time to go pick up your kids from school, hire somebody, right? Like that's 2 hours out of your day, every day of like driving through a city, going to get your children. Yeah. And I say this as a non-parent and she's also a non-parent. And I said this to a friend of mine who was a mom and she's like, that's like my favorite time of the day when I have quality time with my kids. Yeah.
Well, in that case, they're getting joy out of it.
Correct.
Right? So I'm not
saying don't ever pick your kids up from school again. I'm saying if that's not something that brings you joy and it's not a point of connection for you and your child during the day, that could be outsourced. Like everything can be outsourced as long as it's something that you don't want to do. And I think that's the point of this is trying to figure out like, so this leads us into how do you find your zone of genius or your zone of excellence? Like you want to spend as much time in your zone of genius and then secondary to that, as much time of your time in your zone of excellence so that you're really moving your business forward and everything is still getting done. by someone else, right? So I think that's the part that for me has been quite transformative, is really truly understanding, like, I just created a big bill for myself. Like, I could look at it like, oh my God, I'm spending $1,500 a month on an assistant to do all these things for me. And it's a 6-month commitment. And if I do the math, it's $9,000. Oh, right. Like, I could think of that way, or I could think about how much, one, I can bill all of the work that person is doing and or write it off. So there's a win already. And then I have the ability to actually focus on the tasks that I like doing in my business, and I can leave the tasks that I don't like doing in my business. And again, I'm not saying like completely turn a blind eye to what's happening in your business. Like, you are the CEO, but I think as the CEO, fully understanding that having people work in your business so that you can work on your business is a huge gain to push your business forward.
Yep.
Right.
And you would see it if we had the numbers in black and white. You would be really motivated, because when you truly add up all the hours that it's taking you to do everything pretty much on your own, and then versus, times $200 an hour or whatever your billing rate would be, and then versus, every 4 weeks I have to pay someone $1,500, which is $400 a week.
Yeah.
And then you divide that by like how many hours it would have taken you to get whatever they're doing done. It's probably like a $10 an hour job. You're really getting a lot out of that.
Right. And I think when I also break it down in terms of money, like, do I want to spend $200 of my time on a $10 an hour job? I really don't.
Yeah.
And so
not only that, but you're not going to be good at it.
I am 100% not going to be good at it.
That's a problem, because not only is it your ego, okay, I'm not good at it, okay, I'm going to be honest, but like, you'll also make mistakes, right?
Oh, and those can get pretty costly, let me tell you.
Yeah, like I've had, I've worked with, which is why we're doing this podcast. We've worked with so many small business owners that are designers just like us.
Yep.
So we have a lot to pull from. And I mean, I've seen a business owner, lose checks and maybe charge the client the wrong amount. Like, there's just stuff that does go wrong.
Yeah.
Because they shouldn't be doing it. It's not their zone.
Right. Right.
And there's no shame in that at all. But like, if you really look at it, there's quite a danger.
It's true.
It's not having someone else do it.
And I also, we were talking about this earlier too, and I think it bears repeating for everyone that's listening. Like, most of us, well, I think there's a couple of classes of solopreneurs, right? Like, I'll talk about, my experience, and I know other people are coming at this slightly differently, but I went to college, I worked for a big firm, and then I think at some point I realized that I was unmanageable. I needed to be out on my own. Not that I wasn't like a kind, cooperative person, but that like I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to do things differently. I wanted more freedom, more time, more money, right? And I'm imagining that most people that are going into business for themselves want that. And then if you're drawn to this business, there's something about it that you love and that you're good at, right? Like, most of us love the aspect of creating some kind of transformation, whether it's a new sofa with pillows, a chair in a fun fabric. Like, we are the visionaries. We see things differently than other people. That's our zone of genius. And so because we have that capability, we're drawn to these creative fields. And this one in particular, like, a lot of people really find a deep amount of joy and satisfaction from, though, in that area, right? So, but like, I left a very structured corporate company that was a creative company, but still it was very corporate, and threw myself into this position where I get to make all my own rules. I get to have all my own ideas. And it is very exciting. And then quickly realized that everything I thought I knew about running a business was about 1/10 of what I actually needed to know about running a business. So I don't think I was unique in that experience. I would say
definitely not unique.
Right, right. So like the people that know how to run a business, maybe they went to business school. Maybe they just paid a lot more attention. I don't know. Like, but I would say that for the most part, as creative people, this is not necessarily our strong suit. Like there might be some people out there that are like really killing it, understanding all these things. I mean, it took me 20 years to sort of understand the amount of business stuff that I know now. Right.
And you'll find those people who are killing it. We've talked about this is they have a business person that they're in partnership with in that company. There's a bunch of designers out there I can name.
Yeah, we
right
know
off
several.
The top. And so, or maybe it's your husband or somebody in your life that is, but it's always they're getting coached from somewhere.
Yes.
Because when you go to design school, they don't even teach you how to record your time billing, let alone like write an invoice,
right?
Or how to guess how many hours something's going to take. They don't even teach you how to make a fee schedule.
Right.
Which is just a very basic tool to run a project.
Yep. So part of why we wanted to start this podcast is that there are a lot of tools that people don't even really know about, right? Again, like, because I would also say that everybody's coming to this business with some level of experience, or they are getting their experience on the job. But if you let's say that you started a business, you didn't go to design school, you're running that business, and then you're mentoring somebody, and they're learning all the things that you also don't know, right? Like, they're learning all the same things and acquiring the same skills, but they don't have the skill set, and you have the same non-skill set. Not to say
you could be passing down your bad habits.
And it's not to say that your bad habits haven't gotten you to some degree of success, but that there are actually systems and structures. Like I don't think I would have known that if I hadn't worked at that big firm. Again, like I think we want people who are jumping into this without a lot of experience, but who have a lot of talent, to understand that like talent only gets you so far, that we'd love for you to embrace some of these other pieces of the business framework so that you can actually have your talent take you all the way.
Yeah, it's the difference between creativity through a commitment to a structure. Yeah. And then realizing, oh my God, now that the structure is holding me, I have these tools, I have this structure, I'm organized, I have a team. Now I can all I have to do is unleash my creativity, and it's really safe. Right. But sometimes people are really afraid of commitment. I think that's part of the reason of like why we rejected, I don't want to be at a big company in an office. It feels too corporate. It feels too structured. And you sort of blame it all on that. And you go out on your own and then you think, I don't really need systems. I don't really need this stuff. But you do. Yeah. And a lot of this stuff, the reason why we're talking about this is because we're going to save you like 5 to 10 years of like hopefully discovering it on your own. Yeah. Yeah. And, but it's just I know I had a fear of commitment, so I would resist putting myself into a practice of structure. But the flip side is there's freedom in the commitment, which I think is sort of like, you could think of like a marriage proposal. You know, sometimes people really resist getting married for a long time, and then they realize once they find the right partner, it really allows them to just open up and be themselves. It's sort of the same thing. Yeah, it's true. That's a beautiful analogy. And I think, I mean, in some ways, like I was joking around this morning because I just in fact hired a virtual assistant, and so, which was a big leap for me. And now I'm understanding like all the things, but I was like, I just feel like I just got married to all my businesses. Yeah. Yeah. Like you're facing your commitment. Put a ring on it. And so, and it feels really good. Like it feels really, I have a lot more clarity around the trajectory of the businesses that I didn't have before. And I think again, like there's a lot of overwhelm that happens within this business that is staggering for one person. And again, like anybody can do it for a little while. I think what we're talking about is that it's the long-term longevity of your business and your sanity, really.
that we are holding space for. And knowing that, you're great at like this short term, like big burst of energy, lots of time, like really grinding. But as we know, grinders are meant to wear things down. And if you're grinding, like who is under that grinder? It's you.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be under the grinder for a super long time. Like maybe polish yourself up. Sure. But
yeah,
like once you feel
it's not
shiny,
your permanent position.
yeah. Once you feel pretty shiny, it's time to move out of that grind role and into something that's much, much more sustainable. And part of that, as we were talking about a little while ago, is the joy of it all.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think most of us were attracted to this creativity because it brings us joy. And then you realize that there's so many other aspects to the business. The joy is sort of left behind this massive, overwhelming creature that you've just started. And then how do you get back to the joy, and how do you stay in the zone of genius? And so,
well, and sort of what I was saying is like joy is mandatory. Sounds serious for such a fun word, but it is a unlocker for me. Joy is a gateway for me to being able to do my job, the creative parts especially, and of course other things too. But I just literally noticed that my ideas are better when I'm in joy and I allow myself to be in it. And I cultivate it and, all the things. It becomes important, and you do things to keep yourself in joy. Obviously you don't have to stay there all the time, but it's almost like that noticing your energy thing, like really noticing, like, how are you feeling? If I'm not in a good place, like maybe that's not the best time to design. Maybe I should work on shifting my state of mind. Maybe I need to be outside, take a walk, get some fresh air, splash some water on my face, like whatever things, do a little dance party, so many different things to change your energy. But for me, I just keep coming back to like really noticing where am I at energetically.
Yep. I mean, I think that is, we check in with our bodies all the time, right? Am I thirsty?
Yeah.
Am I hungry? Do I have to pee? And like those are biological functions that frequently have consequences if we don't pay attention to them. And I think energetically, this is one thing that, once you can introduce the practice, it really makes a huge difference in your state of, not just your state of mind, right? Like obviously this is about your state of mind, but it's about your prioritizing joy.
Yeah.
And when you prioritize joy over other things in the business flourishes in ways that are unexpected and quite delightful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one, if you do have staff, your place of business is going to be a lot happier, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like, I mean, I think we've all had bosses that were not great. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we've all had bosses that were fantastic. And I think if you can consider like what the difference was, how they approached you energetically probably had a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody, I mean, I think there are some cheerful people who are also ineffective, and that's maddening.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to be that. But I think that prioritizing, and cheer and joy are actually different, but prioritizing your own joy, like, and making sure that your day is set up so that you are capturing that joy. Yeah. And that it's not a reward. As you said, it really is sort of this like mandatory, it's a portal to your creativity. So when you think of it that way and you think about, I am in a creative job, it is literally my lifeblood to be creative. And how can I get more of that? Well,
yeah.
Right. So it's a self-care practice, but it really is something for your business. So maybe joy is taking a nap, like maybe just a little like moment of refreshment or a quick meditation.
Realizing what times of the day you feel the best.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. Like for me, and I think you too, it's like for sure the morning is great for me.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like a rocket. I fire off all these emails. I just like, all this stuff is happening sometimes before 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And I know someone who is also a designer, and she's just very clear. She doesn't want to design after like 1 p.m.
Yep.
Like once 1 p.m. comes, it's too late in the day. It's harder for her to get into her creative mind at that time in the day. So we organize the meetings in the morning. And so it's just good. You want to know yourself in those ways.
Yeah. I also think I was having this conversation with my cousin who is like a multi-passionate entrepreneur as well, and self-made millionaire and all that. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I've been retired for a little while, but not really. And I was like, uh-huh. And what he was saying was he likes to spend about 4 hours a day just daydreaming, like kind of thinking and pondering and sort of all these other things. And then after that time period, he will then move into action. Like he'll go golfing or go on a walk, go fishing, retired, right? And then he'll have like literally his next $1 million idea. He'll call somebody, they'll start chatting, and then all of a sudden he's like making some prototype and it's going off to market, and like people are in a bidding. I'm like, seriously? Okay. Right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like I actually
he is.
Come to the point where my most effective moments and unlocking and coming up with the right ideas are usually when I'm doing something like he's doing, where you're just sitting there kind of staring off, or you're just randomly at some restaurant, or you're just randomly taking a shower, or you're randomly laughing with your friend. It's always these like weird one-off moments. It's never, rarely, because I'm sitting at my computer staring, like, coming up with the most amazing concept. It's usually almost, for me, I experience it like, and I'm sure a lot of people probably too, it's like a lightning bolt. It literally, and they talk about that in the Zone of Genius book. And I forget what famous musician, I want to say like Bob Dylan or somebody. Well, maybe I got the artist wrong, but like when you're a songwriter, this guy talks about it, the tune will come to him, and he's like driving on his way to have dinner with somebody, and he'll pull over because it came in that moment. The new tune, the jingle or the chorus or whatever it is, came to him. He pulls over and sits there and writes it out. And like, I guess his friends just know him so well that when he shows up like a bit late, he was like, I had to like capture the song. That's when it was coming to me. And so now I'm a little late for dinner. And so I mean, I find that to be incredibly true. So the whole like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 stuff, when you're talking about like the creative stuff, doesn't always fit into like the regular business hours. And it doesn't always come from just grinding. It kind of comes from like playing with this joy, this lightness.
Well, I think that's part of the thing I was just going to ask, like how many people are really set up to work 8 hours a day in their business. Yeah. And, my sister she and her husband have set up their lives. They literally designed it this way where they they're both physicians, and they share a family practice job. And her schedule right now is she works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and has Friday through Monday off. And unfortunately, that means for him that he works Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I say that because we are designers, and I think it's just as important to design our lives, right? Yep. So again, like you started a business, congratulations. What do you do with it? It's sort of like having a new puppy, right? Yeah. Like, that puppy needs some structure and training in order to be that well-behaved dog that it can be. And so do you as a business owner. Like you need some structure and training to be like, you need some structure and training to make sure that you're giving yourself some time to just daydream so that creative ideas can come to you. You need some structure and training to hire other people, because doing it all yourself actually sucks. You need some structure and training, right? So like there's all these pieces that are coming together where the goal is to have more freedom, to have more money, to have more time. And all of those things require a little bit of thought. It's just like the designs that we do for other people, but we're going to apply that to our business and our life and figure out like, how do I want this to look Like, what's my overall desire? You know,
Mhm.
and if I'm speaking about myself, like I'd like 50% of my income to come from painting. I'd like a giant amount of my income to come from passive income from Airbnb so that
Mhm.
I don't even have to work, right? And then I would like another minor portion to come from painting. And then I want to be able to choose or not to have a design business.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
because I think some of this also goes into like a time frame, like,
yes,
oh, I want to do this many paintings at, 50% of my time is
yep,
paintings. And
yep,
then that statement might be this year. And the
right.
next year it's this other thing. And talking about, because we have an exercise for you all to write down and get into, like, she's probably sitting there going, how do I figure out what my zone of genius is? Most
Yeah,
people feel like it's hard for them to put it into words. We've gotten good at it. So, like, if we meet you one day and chat and stuff, but we also have like a writing exercise where you write down your top three. I don't want to do it. It's my least favorite things to do.
yep,
And, that we all know we have to do on projects. And then conversely, top three, hell yes, I love doing it. No matter how tired I am, I'll get energy. And what are those things? That's how you start to come to be focused on what we're talking about. And then also there's sort of like the timeline, like, oh, well, in a year it's this, and in 2 years it's X, and in 5 years I actually want to sell the company.
right.
And start to, and so I think the immediate part, like just distinguishing your immediate don't love
Yep,
task is obviously, we don't want to overwhelm you, but then there's also this like long term, what is 2 years from now? What is 5 years from now? I don't want to be unintentional about that. I
yep,
want to create a roadmap, and not just like, you're not just going to get in the car and just maybe drive to Arizona. Like, you're going to drive to like, you're going to go there. And so why
yep.
wouldn't you do that with your business too?
Yeah, goals are important. Structure is important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so funny to me. I'm the most resistant person to structure, and here I am, like creating a program that has structure.
Well,
That's
I
all
think you've
about
always been
structure.
honest that you love having the structure, also want to have someone to interact with around that structure. And so that's what you've come to learn. Well, that's great.
Well, I would say the other piece of that is when I think if I put on my lone wolf hat and I think I have to do everything on my own, the structure doesn't matter because
Mm-hmm.
I am resisting all of the items that I don't want to do, right? So I
Yeah.
can have the best structure in the world, but if I'm resistant to using it, it doesn't really matter. And if I take off that hat and recognize that I want to be spending like a significant portion of my time doing fabrics and furnishings
Yep.
and tile and countertop material sourcing, that if I can just be honest and say, like, I think we're all pretty clear. Those are the fun
Mm-hmm.
things to do, right? Like, we all like doing them. Everybody that wants to work for us is going to want to do those things if they're a design mind. So perhaps finding somebody that doesn't want to do that stuff so that you feel great, like
Mm-hmm.
you're doing your thing over here on the data entry side and you love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine loving that, but you can't imagine loving doing the fabrics and the furniture, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the part where when I can open my mind enough to recognize that, like, my zone of genius really is like these color palettes and these textures and all of this stuff that comes together that makes the space, and also like the space planning and blah blah, right?
Mm-hmm.
that that for someone else, like, that's terrifying. And absolutely, it's why we have clients, right? Those people
Yeah, it
don't want to do it
is.
either.
They don't want to do either. Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, like, if I can recognize that truly is like where I am my shiniest, happiest version of my designer self, and that somebody else is in this other part of my business, that like we're both winning, the business is winning, and then the life that I saw in my future is actually starting to happen.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, you can actually start to achieve your goals.
Yes, I can.
Just being in the same place all the time.
Yep.
And I think you're right. And both of us did that recently, where we just said, when we were hiring people, is these people didn't need to have a design background. They needed to have accuracy and an ability to double check things for accuracy and detail, whatever you want to call all these things. Obviously, they need to understand what the business is, but they weren't actual designers from school. And anyway, I just think our business has some like preciousness around it, where it's like everybody has to be a designer. And it was actually like, no, they don't. Obviously, certain people do need to be the designers on the team because there's a certain amount of it. But just starting to see things and break them down and make them not so like everything has to be so perfect, which it makes sense why designers need support in their business, is because we think of so many beautiful things and we want them to turn out perfectly. And then, so when you're working, you sort of are precious about things. It's like a little bit of a personality trait that we all sort of share, I find.
Well, and I also think, like, as much as we want perfection to exist, that is a lie. And if you're telling yourself it has to be perfect and you're putting that energy out and your clients are also adopting that kind of energy, perfection is really expensive, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like it's actually expensive to our own self-worth if we put that much pressure on ourselves and then forget that it's actually unachievable. Like you can get really close, but the closer you get, the more time it takes, the more resources it takes, the more planning and skill set it takes. Like the trades people that you're involving have to be like all the highest, right? So like all the
and also the client has to be in that budget,
correct
bracket,
right?
Income bracket, or whatever you want to call it.
So I think that the thief of joy is many, many things. I've heard it's comparison. I would say it's perfectionism.
Yeah.
Like there's a few things that can really rob you of your joy, and also doing it all on your own.
Thanks for listening and being part of our community. Speaking of community, please head over to our website and sign up for podcast alerts and blog posts. And if you're looking for more resources to up-level your business, create more time in your schedule, and improve your profits, we have a blueprint for your success that covers mindset, systems, business, teams, and tools. Think of us as your unaccredited university. Visit us at under-the-fringe.com and tune in next week for our next deep dive on creating more freedom and less struggle.